We've escaped the maze of building a rig, but you realize that now you're just in another dark corridor, faintly lit by torches lining the wall. You walk down the hallway until you realize you're now in an open space. A shadowy figure emerges from the other end of the room, moving slowly towards you. You're not afraid, but you recognize he's not your ally by any means. He tosses something your way. You realize where you are. We're out of the freezer and into the frying pan. We're in the gauntlet of softwares. I think what makes choosing a software such a pain is that no matter what you do, you always feel like you're making the wrong choice. I'm here to tell you, they're all the right choice. And they're all the wrong choice. There is no such thing as the perfect software, only the most bearable, and even that is relative to the person. All the softwares I'm going to be talking about on the most bare bones, fundamental level can do the same thing. Animate in 2D. In fact, the thing you're trying to look at when getting a software is what it can't do. Can I import things to the software without breaking my brain? Can I add it to the timeline without breaking my brain? Can I audio script to make lip sync possible? Is there onion skin? If so, how many frames? How many frames can I add before the software implodes? Can I paint it, or am I only able to use a fill tool? Are there other brushes? Can I export in more than one file type? And the thing about all these questions, you get to those when you get to those. The big question you're asking right now, can I use this without bashing my skull into my desk? That question is at the base of every production software, even production hardware. So let's get into this. Before getting into the software rankings, let's just lay down a little foundation. There are 3 types of animation softwares. There's vector-based software, raster-based software, and 3D software, and some can do a mixture of all these as well. The best word I can use for vector is that it's lossless. The vector line is actually a little math equation calculated relative to the size of the canvas, so it can be upscaled and downscaled while virtually retaining the same ratio. Because your strokes are mini math equations, you can't really get nearly as detailed as a rastered image. That's not to say you can get very detailed, it's just because it is a math equation, it's always going to be a nice little perfect line. It doesn't have the nuance of pixels. If a software is raster-based, that means it's pixel-based. The cool thing about pixel-based software is you can actually get very detailed. A lot of digital art softwares and painting softwares are almost always raster-based just because you can get so detailed and nitty-gritty because of the pixels. But because it's pixel-based, that means you can't scale it up without losing some sort of quality. So essentially, you're kind of locked into what you're drawing there, and if you do upscale it, you're going to have to redraw it and make it not look bad. A big problem with raster-based software is that future-proofing just means you're going to work in a very large size. 3D is a combination of both raster and vector, since the 3D shapes are mathematically designed and the textures are pixel-based. And it's also 3D, so that means you have to worry about Z-axis. It's a little disorienting when first starting out, but you get used to it. A lot of artists and animators use multiple programs for certain functions as well, so don't feel like you have to tie yourself down to one software. Once you start your collection of experimental softwares, you'll find out what works best for what you're doing and the context of what is trying to happen. The most digestible way I thought of to do this is just a tier list. Let me be clear on something. One thing I don't like about tier lists is it makes anything not an S or A seem worthless. All these are valid options to get started animating on. I wouldn't put it on the list if I didn't believe that. They're just a little harder to jump into. Especially starting out, you'll find yourself fighting the software more than just animating, and I would prefer if you're drawing more than just trying to understand what's going on in the software. So here's how I'm going to structure this. I'm going to rate 5 aspects of the software that I think are important from an A to F grading system, and then accumulate that into a final GPA. We're going to have ease of access, meaning how affordable is it? Can most computers run the software? Things like that. And in terms of pricing, I'm going to give you a little life hack. If you're still in high school or even in college, always get the student price. Just cash out on it. Don't spend the extra money. You're going to get the same software. Save money. Take the handout. User interface readability. When you open the software, can you instantly tell where your frames are, where your brushes are, how to add more frames, where the playback button is? Basically, can you just jump right in and draw? Versatility. Can the software do more than one thing? Can you scrub audio for lip sync, export in more than one file type, use different brushes? If you can only animate in 2D, how many tools does it give it to make the process more streamlined? Stability. Do this shit be crashing? If so, how often do it be crashing? Every software crashes, even if it's so minimal it seems like it doesn't crash, it's bound to happen. It's just the nature of softwares. They just implode on themselves sometimes, and you would rather a software doesn't implode on you after 5 hours of work and you forgot to save, because that is awful and you'll never work on something again. Ease of use. How high is the learning curve for the software? How much of it is actively working against you? Believe it or not, this is probably the most important question because every software actively works against you. So here are the tiers. F tier, D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, and S tier. Here are the softwares I'll be talking about.
Let's do this.
Obviously, I made it extremely quiet because I thought it'd be funny, but also, that's what animating on paper is like. It's a lot of silence and a lot of patience. Like that blank sheet of paper staring at you, you have to make it into something. Everything is on you. There are no tools to help you out or make anything easier. The good thing about paper is it kind of weeds people out if they know animating is for them or not. And I don't want you to get weeded out. I want you to at least enjoy seeing something you've animated, because even doing that on paper, it takes like an extra hour to just snap every photo, put it into a program, and time it out. Paper is the true just neutral. I don't even think it's neutral good or chaotic evil. It just is what it is. Final rating, C tier. All right, let's touch on... Aseprite is a raster-based software used to make pixel-based art and animations for games typically, but that doesn't mean you can't do other things with the software as well. It's $20 and literally anything can run Aseprite, so it's honestly just as accessible as Blender, if not more, because a phone can run this thing. It's a very simple software that gets straight to the point, so you can quickly know what you can and can't do, which is honestly so important because now you won't waste your time attempting to do something you can't do and instead try to bend the rules of what you can do. You can really only do one thing, well technically two, and that's draw/animate in low pixel, which it honestly does very well. The export options are only in GIF, there is no audio scrubbing so you can't lip sync, and there's only one type of brush. It's really up to you how creative you can get with this software because of how simple it is. There is no way in hell Aseprite is crashing on anyone. This shit runs on Chromebooks. Chromebooks are worse than computers from like 2003. I would be shocked if you couldn't run Aseprite, let alone if it crashed. Like, what are you running it on, like a Wii? The software is so simple, and while it does have some clunky aspects, the big reason I'm giving it a C is because it's not actively working against you, but it's definitely not working with you. Aseprite being so simply both hurts and helps it. At its core, Aseprite is a very solid animation software. It's essentially a desktop version of Flipnote. Unfortunately, it doesn't add much more than Flipnote either, but for what it's worth, it's perfectly valid to animate on and learn animation on. Final rating, B. Sweet. Clip Studio Paint is, in my eyes, one of the best drawing softwares ever made. The UI is so clean, it's simple and to the point, and the brushes are amazing. It's fairly cheap in the sense that you get so much for a one-time pay versus a sub, but how does it hold up as an animation software? At $219, the program is an absolute steal for the amount of features you get. Most computers can run the software, more so it's relevant to how big the canvas is and what exactly you're doing that affects the performance of the software, but for what it's worth, it's definitely a very accessible software. As a drawing software, the UI is phenomenal. Everything is just there that you need, and clicking around reveals more and more tools to use. But where my gripe comes from CSP as an animation software, that timeline drives me fucking crazy. It looks so tacked on, it's really big and bulky, and your drawing layer tab being on the right makes it very confusing because when you draw a frame, it also populates a layer, so it makes it confusing as to what's going on. CSP can also get very tabby and overwhelming if you click the wrong thing as well, so it can get kind of hard to read after a while. And just adding the animation timeline makes me feel like that. I just don't like it. It's just lazy and ugly. I'll be honest, the only reason I'm giving this a B is because the export options are ass and there is no audio scrubbing for lip sync. The drawing software is just so goddamn good. You can storyboard, draw comics. There's even a 3D modeler, so you can actually lay out Sakuga shots very easily, and with the adjustable lens, you can get some really crazy looking layouts. If it's just for drawing, CSP has got you and has even more stuff to make your life easy. I've had the baby version of CSP for years, and I've recently upgraded to EX, and it still has the same issues it's always had. The software lags if your brush is too big. There's this weird bug I've had after updating for some reason that the software just crashes on startup, and I have to do a hard reset in order to open the software. And it just has been prone to crashing just drawing regular things, and the autosave/recovery is kind of ass. The software itself has very little of a learning curve, more so you just find out things the more you use it and the questions you use. The animation aspect is very clunky, but nothing you won't get used to after like 30 minutes. For what CSP is, I think it's a fine way to jump into animation, and the software doesn't work against you until you want to do bigger, more complex projects. Overall, the software is very pleasant to jump into. Final grade, B tier. That one's good. You guys already know how I feel about Flipnote as a software and as a complete unit. To me, it's the perfect benchmark of what an animation software should be. As soon as the eShop closes, this may become an F. You already have to buy a used piece of equipment on top of the little process to get Flipnote, so it is kind of a pain in the ass. It is so easy to find everything, so easy to tell what you can and can't do, and that's on top of all the hotkeys and stuff being built into the 3DS, so it's very ergonomic and kind of helps you work super fast. Understanding how to use hotkeys is such a key part of learning production software because it just streamlines and makes everything so much faster, right? Those milliseconds being cut from using a hotkey really add up in the end. Hear me out. You can animate on it, use it as a storyboarding tool, take photos to create rotoscoping style blocking. There's audio editing. It's janky, but it does it good enough from the comfort of your pocket. I think that makes up more than enough for it. Exporting projects kind of sucks because it's like Aseprite where you have to either export it as a GIF or export each separate image. This shit does not crash, dude. There's no way. Everything makes sense and you very quickly understand what you can and can't do with Flipnote. The problem with a lot of animation softwares is you learn what it can and can't do as you're using it, versus with this, it's all right there. There's nothing hiding or even like hidden tech. It just kind of is what it is. Obviously, I had a whole section dedicated to the 3DS as a starting tool. It's very hard for me not to put this in A tier in terms of what the overall package you get to start animating on. I mean, this thing is wonderful. Easily an A. Flash, the pioneer of what we have today. I very much appreciate what Flash has done to enable creativity within games and animation, both professionally and for independent creators online. But as a software, I haven't really used it since 2014, and I think that's when it just became Animate. It was really fucking bad. Let's hope it's not as shit as I remember. It's $29.99 for the singular software and $55 a month for the whole creative suite. So you get Premiere, Audition, Photoshop, After Effects, all that cool stuff. It's fairly well optimized for computers, so it does run well enough on anything made after like 2014. I gotta say, man, for what it's worth, the Animate UI and workspace is beautiful. If you have no idea of what's going on, this software leads you to where you need to go, so I am impressed. And I haven't used it since 2014, so just opening it again like this, it does look very nice. I mean, Flash was essentially the backbone of content creation, from Flash games to Flash cartoons. It was created as a tool for web design, and people kind of like bended it and molded it to make cartoons. So it is versatile, it's just kind of forced to be versatile. I haven't used this current version, but Flash is notorious for just imploding on itself. The current version looks very well optimized, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it works well enough. The tools are all there and everything is as plain as day, so it looks like Adobe's really stepped up their game. Wait, hold on. Oh, wait, hold on. I fucking knew it. Oh my god, Flash is still so shit. I knew it. Dude, Flash is like that fucking ex-girlfriend. It's gotten me like 4 times where I think they fixed this fucking thing and it's just still as bad as I remember it. Holy fuck. All right, you know what? Let me show you something, right? This is a same Adobe, same brand, ready? You can just drag it on the timeline. That's, you know, that's video game, right? What about After Effects? This is technically animation software. Ready? Watch this. Look at this. You can just fucking drag this on the fucking timeline. Why can't you do it on Flash? It's been 20 years. You know what? Different software. Ready? Watch this. Click. It's there. It's on the timeline. Why doesn't it do it in fucking Flash? Fuck you, Flash. You get a... Guys, I'll be so real with you. I am a Harmony dick rider, dude. I fucking love this software. I will take a bullet for this software. I will gladly be wrong in defending this software, but I'm not. So, in my opinion, I think paying for subscription-based software is a load of bullshit. But since you can keep updating it with Harmony, it's not so bad. At $27.50 for Essentials, it's a perfect price. And if you're a student, you get Advanced for like $10. And those little quality of life tools that Advanced adds is totally worth it over Essentials. And Harmony is a little bit taxing on your computer as well, so you do kind of need a decent rig to run the software adequately. I don't think it's worth $60 a month, but for $82 a year, fuck yes. As a person who was coming from Flipnote to Harmony, the UI just clicked with me. Everything is there and visible for you to see, and there is nothing hiding from you beyond maybe like the pen sensitivity. There is a bit of shit in the workspace that seems confusing, but you don't have to worry about it because you're not going to use it. It's just kind of there. Harmony is built for one thing and one thing only. That's 2D animation. In that context, it is very versatile because it has every tool to make 2D animation as painless as possible. Audio scrubbing, place and trace, a separate paint and line layer, an adjustable camera with tracking, an auto lip sync function, symbol libraries for tweening. It just wants you to animate in 2D, man. Anything else like 3D imports and models and stuff like that is in the Super Pro version, but I don't really use that and I've never have used it, so I have no comment on that. But in terms of a 2D animation software, this thing is killer, dude. I think Harmony has crashed like maybe 5 times in the 8 years I've used it. This shit does not crash. At least for me, it is very well optimized and I have no complaints in that realm. Toon Boom does have some quirks with color cards and cell copying that can be annoying at first. Once you get acquainted with the software, you learn to appreciate it, but it do be kind of quirky. Not like cute quirky, but like annoying cringy quirky, but it will become cute eventually. It's fine. I can't recommend Harmony enough as a starter software, even as a professional software, and it only gets better with each update, and that is super rare for a lot of softwares because software is just like imploding with each update, unlike Toon Boom. Final rating, A. Yes. Blender is an open source free 3D software, and they recently added something called Grease Pencil, which lets you animate in 2D in Blender, but it's still technically a 3D vertex, it's just very thin. So it's not actually like a vector brush or a pencil brush, it's just a thin 3D object giving the illusion that it's 2D. Blender is free and virtually any potato can run it. I'd say Blender is probably the most accessible software in terms of just downloading something and turning on. Blender is first and foremost a 3D software, so when you turn it on, it's gonna feel like you're in a spaceship. There's just things everywhere. All the terminology and such is in the context of a 3D software, including in Grease Pencil. So it uses words like vertex, material, and texture instead of brush and color. And the timeline is very akin to After Effects. That's not a bad thing, it's just very strange for a traditional 2D animation software. It's just very off-putting. The workspace in Grease Pencil still feels very 3D because Blender's a 3D software. It just feels all topsy-turvy and I hate it. Blender can basically do everything except video editing. It can do video editing, I'm totally lying. You can composite like in After Effects, animate in 2D and 3D, and then combine those to animate on top of each other. There's audio scrubbing for lip sync. For a free software, this shit can't really be understated in terms of its value. Blender is amazing for those who don't have money to afford software. Blender constantly is getting patched, and some patches just make the software implode. On my current build, I have yet to have it crash, but on other computers I've used it on, it just disappears without even a warning, so... The best way I can describe using Blender is if your friend gave you a key to his compound that he himself has never stepped foot in. It has everything: home theater, a garage with every tool to work on a car, indoor pool and sauna, massive kitchen with a walk-in pantry, woodshop workspace, welding workspace, recording studio, film studio, animation studio, you name it. This compound is perfect. You don't even have to leave the outside world. You get there. There's no map, your friend is of no help because he's never stepped foot in it, and the place is a fucking maze. You spend days trying to get a layout of the compound, but as soon as you get a layout of one room, it feels like another room appears. And in those rooms, there's tons of cabinets within those rooms that have all the tools everywhere, but they're all kind of out of whack. They're somewhere there, you just have to find them. It's been 2 weeks and you still barely have a layout of the compound. You go to the kitchen exhausted from exploring. All you want are some canned beans. You open the pantry. Turn on the light. It's another maze. You fall to your knees. God, why me? I just want a can of beans. I don't even like canned beans. I just figured it would be the easiest fucking thing to find in this place. And it's a maze to find that. Where are the fucking beans? That is what it's like trying to learn Blender. For what it is, if you bash your skull against this wall long enough, you will find a path and it's totally usable. It's not bad by any means. It's just constantly working against you and giving you new hurdles compared to other softwares that at least kind of feel like they're pushing you in the right direction you want to be going. Final rating, C tier. Final thought. Notice one thing about my list. There's no TV Paint. Now, there is nothing in S tier because there is no perfect software. And honestly, part of me feels like it's like a Mega Man or Zelda game where the first one you make a connection with is almost always going to have a special place in your heart. This is how I feel about these softwares coming from someone who loves Flipnote and Harmony. And even then, everything on here isn't something I wouldn't use. If it's here, that means I use it quite often for one reason or another because it consistently just works and will want to make you animate more because it makes me want to animate more. If it's here, I use it here and there to experiment with different ideas and would like to dedicate more time to see what's possible within the software, and it might leave you on the fence about animating. This ranking right here means I really do want to love it, but there's just so much tedious shit to me that even if it does have an immense payoff, it just makes animating feel like such a slog and will probably scare you off from animating. This, you're paying for this. You're paying for a shit software that is constantly updated and works against you to this day and hasn't improved one bit. It is mind-boggling. Like, there's a part of me that logically wants to put it in C, but I'm just, why is it still like this? I really hope this video is of some sort of help to you guys. I know when I was first starting out, getting the software was probably the worst part for me. It gave me so much anxiety. I felt like I was always picking the wrong thing, but they're all kind of the same and do the same thing. It's just what works best for you. I really wanted to get this video out in December, but the holidays just kind of beat my ass. And honestly, this video definitely pushed me to my limit because editing 20 minutes fucking sucks. But the next video will definitely be a lot more straightforward. Hopefully it's a breath of fresh air for everyone. I really do hope you guys enjoy these videos. I really want everyone to get a taste of what animation is because it's so fun and it means so much to me. And I want everyone to feel that same feeling I get and make it as accessible as it is. Because it really does feel like such a gatekept thing for some reason, when to me it is like the most easily accessible medium. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it.